Welcome everyone, Souldin of the Grin Brothers here, and today is another episode of Tea Time. Today's tea is Wittard Original. Yeah, nothing too fancy, it's a black tea, so I think it's supposed to be some sort of special blend by a company called Wittard, or a family called Wittard. Have it with milk, very nice, very nice. I mean, I prefer English breakfast because this is a sort of dark taste, but anyway, the tea's not quite so important, other than the fact that it's called tea. This whole thing's called Tea Time. Today, with my previous recordings of Tea Time, I felt they've kind of been a bit Nintendo-centric. Kind of makes sense. I'm mostly a Nintendo fan. Absolutely love Nintendo games. But I figured I should talk about something non-Nintendo related. The only thing I've talked about not really sort of focused on Nintendo was effectively the Sunset Overdrive discussion. Not exactly effectively, it was. Literally had nothing to do with Nintendo, it was Sunset Overdrive after all. That said, I also felt I should start discussing something relating to Grin Brothers itself, and I, funny enough, have a topic to combine the two. As you may know, from previous Tea Times, I have an Xbox One. As you may also know, we've originally were planning on having our first recorded playthrough of Grin Brothers being Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze. And with all my talk of the Wii U gamepad, I've got a Wii U. Through the Wii U I can play my old Wii games, and we have an Xbox 360 and a PS3, which, after fixing some kinks out, we should be able to start recording with them. What we don't have, though, for the Grin Brothers is a PS4, and I figure I should explain the reasoning as to why. Although that's only a half-true statement now. For my older brother's birthday, actually did buy him a PS4. His PS3 had broken, and he was really wanting a PS4. So I got him a PS4. Which I hope he enjoys. But then there's the reasoning as to why, now that I have access to a PS4 sort of system, why you probably won't be seeing many PS4... Well, you probably won't see any PS4 games being recorded on Grin Brothers, at least at the present moment. And that's generally because with Grin Brothers, we've generally been focusing on games that we actually have the possession of, or the consoles of. And so when it comes to, because we're not sort of earning any money through this at the moment, when it comes to getting a system or a game, it usually has to be one that it's not just for recording that we'd want to do it, but we actually want this ourselves. And I won't speak on Rafi's behalf here. Maybe he'll express his opinion on it at some other point. But when it comes to the PS4, there was nothing to interest me in one. At E3 this year, so far, the PS4 has very few games that I'm interested in myself. It doesn't have many exclusives. I generally judge getting a system based on its exclusives, which is why I usually end up with a Nintendo system, which is why I absolutely love the Wii, because along with first-party exclusives, it also had third-party exclusives, such as Red Steel, A Boy and His Blob, and one of my favourite games of all time, Muramasa the Demon Blade, although that's now available on PS Vita. It's actually probably the most motivating factor of possibly getting a PS Vita one day, simply so I can play Muramasa again. Love the game. But, getting a little bit off topic there, point is, I generally base the sort of games, systems I get based on what exclusives they have. Partly because with the multi-platform games, I don't usually go for multi-platform games. There's a few that interest me. There's a few series that interest me. For instance, I love Dead or Alive, and I do like BlazBlue. So I like those sort of multi-platform series. But generally, it's going to be an exclusive. Even when it comes to third party, I tend to like the exclusives. So when it came to getting an Xbox One, I got an Xbox One because of what exclusives it had. It had Sunset Overdrive. I really wanted that. It had Fable Legends, which I'm looking forward to. It has Ori and the Blind Forest, which I'm really, really looking forward to. And it had other games to sort of interest me, such as Phantom Dust and Project Spark. I'm pretty sure there was another exclusive that's literally full... Oh, yeah, Killer Instinct is also a game that I'm sort of interested in possibly playing eventually. I'd have to actually get points for the Microsoft Store. And so basically, when it came to the Xbox One, there was a lot to actually interest me in getting one. This wasn't quite the case for Sony, though. When the PS4 launched, there wasn't really any games that interested me. I had a slight interest in Clank, but I haven't really heard many good things about it, so it sort of waned on that thing. And when it's sort of, even going up to E3, the only big game that I've heard about that sort of sounds really good for it was Infamous Second Son. And Rafi enjoys the Infamous game that he had played, but I wasn't really into Infamous Second Son. I mean, it looks like a fun game, but it all depends on whether I sort of play it. So that was like more of a partial interest. So I then had to wait until E3 to see what titles I had. And then came the big problem. Pretty much every title... Well, now I've learned that pretty much every title that was announced at E3 by Sony that I actually had an interest in was either a remake or was available on another platform. A platform that I would, by chance, happen to own. For instance, the two games interested me. Not sort of made me think I really want this game, like Ori and the Blind Forest or Splatoon, but they just had an interest, meaning, you know, I may pick this up along the way. One of these games was Entwined. It looked really interesting. I've now learned that Entwined, well, other than finding out that Entwined's already released, I didn't even hear anything about it actually releasing so soon. I found out it's available on the PlayStation 3, and I happen to have a PlayStation 3, so I can just get Entwined on the PlayStation 3. Another game I saw which looked fairly good was Magicka 2. That game is admittedly a PlayStation 4 exclusive. Well, it's also available on PC, but I'm not a PC gamer. However, like I said, this was only a partial interest in the game, so I guess you could point out like a 0.5 mark in its favour. But of course, the one big game at Sony which made me think I'd really want to get a PS4 for this game was Little Big Planet 3. They then announced that Little Big Planet 3 would also be available on a PS3. Sony had effectively destroyed any reasoning as to why I should actually want a PS4. After all, the games I'd want to get a PS4 for were also available on PS3, for the most part, you know, in the Magicka 2. Then I thought, well, what about the third-party games? I mean, now there are some third-party games I could take into consideration. Those games include Shadow of Mordor and Dead or Alive 5 Last Round. Problem there is those games are also available on systems I already own, including the fact they're available on PS3, Xbox 360 and Xbox One, and I own all three of those. So it's never going to be a case of, do I need to get a PS4 for these? No, I don't. Do I really want to get a PS4 for these? Well, I've got other systems which I can play just fine on. And if it came to the matter of, do I want to play this game on an Xbox One or a PS4? Well, along with the fact of, you know, putting aside the fact that I already own an Xbox One, I've tried both controllers out, and frankly my preference is for an Xbox One controller over a PS4 controller. I've made comments before, but I feel Sony's controllers feel too light, feel a bit too small. The Xbox One controller isn't what I'd call perfect, though frankly the D-pad is a big improvement over the Xbox 360, and the Xbox 360 generally had a very nice controller. I'd say the controllers are a little bit odd. But anyway. Point is, the PS4 had nothing to sort of interest me on exclusively. But there are other games to take into consideration that could possibly interest me, like Ratchet & Clank. I'm a fan of Ratchet & Clank. Not nearly as much as Rafi. Rafi is a huge fan of Ratchet & Clank. The one Ratchet & Clank game they announced, though, is apparently... Oh, I probably shouldn't have clicked away on the sound. Couldn't see it there. Is apparently a remake of the first game. So, it's just a remake. I mean, I liked The Legend of Zelda Wind Waker HD a lot. It's a great game, but it is a remake, so I wouldn't have sort of gone out of my way to get an entire video game system just for a remake. It would have been one of the games that I'd have considered getting Wii U, which I did eventually get with my later on. Other games that were interesting me. Well, another big game that interested me is Tearaway Unfolded, because I like the look of Tearaway on the PS Vita. Well, I found out now that Tearaway Unfolded is pretty much a remake or retelling of Tearaway on the PS Vita. Considering I still have an interest in a PS Vita because a PS Vita has Muramasa Rebirth on it, and also has Gravity Rush, which I've heard is getting a sequel to as well, apparently, as well as a couple other games that I'm possibly interested in, that just makes me want a PS Vita instead of a PS4. And finally, then at best, there's probably one or two games that I thought, I could try this game out. For instance, I looked out and apparently PS4 will be getting a game called Fairy Fencer F Advent Dark Force. And I thought, Fairy Fencer F, this is a turn-based RPG from the looks of it, and I'd probably like to play it. Except for the fact that I haven't played the original Fairy Fencer F. So if I want to properly get into that game, I'd have to actually buy Fairy Fencer F, the original, for PS3 first. And enjoy it, and play through all of that first, or play through a lot of it first before I go get the sequel. At the end of it all, let me actually take a bit of tea. My throat's kind of hurt from all that. it'll always be a matter of personal opinion on what interests you in a game. But for me, I've not seen really anything to truly grip me into getting a PS4. As said, the games are either available on the PS3 or are remakes. They've got some titles starting to come out next year, like Bloodborne and Uncharted 4 and such, but Bloodborne is a game IP that's not really going to interest me, and Uncharted 4, well, again, it's not really an IP that specifically interests me. I must say I have a partial interest in it because after playing PlayStation All-Stars Battle Royale, I really like Nathan Drake as a character. He's a great character, so... but it's not my sort of IP, sort of, really. I mean, there are plenty of Sony IPs that would interest me in getting a PS4. Chances are, though, they won't come, because I'm not seeing a Medieval 3 or a new Ape Escape being made for the PS4 at the moment. In fact, I'm not seeing those games much at all, except for in PlayStation All-Stars Battle Royale as characters. I miss those IPs. Sony, could we get a Legend of Dragoon while we're at it? That'd be pretty cool. Or a new Dark Cloud / Dark Chronicle. I know you'd have. I think you have to contact level 5 for that to get him to make a new one, but that'd be very appreciated. So yeah, that's pretty much my thoughts on the sort of PS4 at the moment. There's not really anything to interest me in getting one myself, and there's very few games that would sort of interest me in sort of going to the hassle of going to my brother's and sort of playing it. You know, considering he's moved out. We're not talking about Rob here, the older brother here, who has a PS4 I've given him. So that's really all I pretty much have to say. So for the moment, you're unlikely to see any PS4 games on Grin Brothers, because it also is a matter of what games we think would be good to actually do a recorded playthrough of. At the moment, Rafi's more interested in doing shorter playthroughs because it's easier on him to do the recording alongside college work. Perhaps it'll be an easier case of we'll be more inclined to do longer playthroughs later on, but I do kind of see the good point to shorter playthroughs in the I want to finish the playthroughs each time, but I also want to add variety to what we have on our channel. So I don't obviously want a playthrough which lasts for over 3 months long in a row, which is why you'll see something interesting with the Sonic Adventure playthrough series when we upload it. I think we've already discussed how we're uploading it, but pretend you don't know. I mean, you've probably already forgotten. I'm not sure my voice ingrained itself into your memory. So pretend you don't know for the mystery. Yeah, okay. Probably went on much longer than I needed to. Those are my thoughts on the PS4. My thoughts on the Wittard tea is that it's very nice. Just not my cup of tea per se. Oh gosh, did I just say that? Oh. I hate puns. Oh. Anyway. I say anyway an awful lot on this show, don't I? I hope you've enjoyed. Feel free to share your opinion below of both my opinion and your own opinion. And cheerio!